3 से 4.5 होगा,
ऐसा
मतलब उसी थोड़ा सा ओवरलैपिंग रहा। Okay. Good evening, friends. On behalf of Nehru Science Center and National Council of Science Museums, our parent organization, I welcome you all to this very special day, which we are commemorating as Engineers Day, which is perhaps all of you are aware that we celebrate this day for in the memory of Sir MV, as popularly he is known, Sir M. Visvesvaraya, who is not considered only an engineer, a nation builder, as well as a statesman, or many things which can be said about him. In fact, we need to know more about this because he has a span of life. In fact, he's and we are going this great personality from our own Shri S.M. Khened has an opportunity, in fact, I should say, to create that exhibition about life and works of Sir MV. And who can be better? In fact, on WhatsApp, so many messages we have seen. I don't know, means it is sometimes it becomes very difficult to authenticate all those messages. But one thing is sure that those are an indication that what a great personality he was, what a great engineer he was. He has done so many things. So let me just give an opportunity, a small brief about Khened. Basically an electronics and communication engineer from Sainik School, Bijapur. Started with multinational companies like HP and Intel, and then later on joined National Council of Science Museum, our parent organization, in the year 1986. And during those 35 years of his National Council of Science Museum, he has served at many National Science Center, Delhi, Nehru Science Center, Mumbai, Visvesvaraya Industrial and Technological Museum in Bangalore. Apart from that, I should say he retired, in fact, from Nehru Science Center only association when he was curating exhibitions on 100 years of Nobel Prize, human genome and beyond. And then including aerospace also. Then other exhibition he has curated is human biology, Sir M. Visvesvaraya, aerospace, Ramanujan, the man who knew infinity, water, the elixir of life, machine to think, our bodyguards. There are many, means it is a long list, but this one needs specializes, many committees also. He was involved with all that. In fact, 60 science articles and research papers in leading science communication journals in India as well as abroad. Published 5 well-researched exhibition catalogs. One of them is obviously on Sir MV. He has presented papers in national, international seminars and symposiums, including at the World Science Center Congress, chaired a session in the International Conference, Public Communication of Science and Technology Conference, PCST 2010. In fact, he is an avid blogger and writes extensively on various subjects, particularly on history of science and technology, art, culture, biographies of scientists, etc. In fact, those who are interested, you can visit his blog and find out a lot of valuable information out there. Has published 170 plus articles on his blogs which has a wide fan following from across the globe, and some leading scientists and technocrats from India as well. But he has been a member of several, as I told, on committees, member of International Science Writers Association, National Steering Committee of Science and Astronomy Olympiads, Organizing Committee of Indian Science Congress in the year 2015 when it was organized at Mumbai, International Ministerial Exhibition Committee, and post-retirement, in fact, by a search committee and selection committee, he was offered as for the post of CEO, Pradhan Mantri Sangrahalaya, which is coming up in New Delhi. Then he has received National Museum of American History Scholarship from the Smithsonian Institution, Washington. He is also recipient of 16th NES National Award instituted by Shri Jayendra Saraswati Shankaracharya Kanchi. He was nominated for the prestigious Eastern Eye Arts, Culture and Theatre Awards in the 2018 England for the curation of cricket exhibition. In fact, he is also an expert. I should say that on Indian history and science and technology, when he has curated exhibition, which you can visit at Nehru Science Center as well as National Science Center, Delhi. With this brief introduction, I invite Shri Khened sir. Please take over and, sir, enlighten us on Sir MV and his life and works. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so very much, Umesh, for your very, very kind introduction. Not a brief one, but a very, very long one. Maybe I think you got a lot of information from here and there. My colleague Umesh has, explained to you the importance of 15th September in India. It is commemorated as National Engineers Day in memory of Sir M. Visvesvaraya. Visvesvaraya is very special to us, particularly to the National Council of Science Museum, from where I retired just recently on 31st May to 2021. The reason I'm telling why Visvesvaraya is special is, before I do that, I make my presentation, I'll share my screen. Can you see, Rajesh?
Yes, sir. We can see.
Okay. Okay. Now, I told you about the significance of 15th September. It happens to be the birth anniversary of Sir M. Visvesvaraya. There are two actual dates, when he was actually born. One is, if you go by the official date of birth, which is recorded in his passport, which was a British passport, British India passport. The date of birth is 15th September 1861. But however, there are experts in Karnataka in his language, Kannada language, who have suggested that he was actually born in 15th September 1860. This is corroborated by other event also, in the sense that the Department of Post, Government of India, brought out a centenary post, a special stamp in memory of Sir M. Visvesvaraya. It was released, this special stamp was released on 15th September 1960, which happened to be the 100 years. How the National Council of Science Museum is connected with Visvesvaraya is that, we have a science center, science museum, which is in the name of Sir M. Visvesvaraya. It is called as Visvesvaraya Industrial Technological Museum. The council per se started the science museum movement in India from 1959 onwards, when on 2nd May 1959, the first science museum under the government, under the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, CSIR, was opened in Calcutta on 2nd May 1959. Immediately, on 15th September 1960, I told you that we had the centenary of Visvesvaraya, and the government of Mysore, that time it was called as Mysore, but the state of Karnataka wanted to commemorate Visvesvaraya birthday in a very big, very massive way, that too in front of the public. So what they did is, they chose a public place called as Lal Bagh. Many of you who have seen Bangalore, you know that Lal Bagh is a beautiful garden where it was decided that Sir M. Visvesvaraya will be honored on his centenary year. Pandit Nehru was very, very close to M. Visvesvaraya. Close to Visvesvaraya in the sense that everybody in the country admired Visvesvaraya and his engineering capabilities, and also the fact that he did remarkable developmental work for the state of Mysore, particularly when he was the Diwan. I will talk about that in my talk. Why I am coming to Visvesvaraya and the Visvesvaraya Museum and National Council of Science Museum is 15 September 1960, Pandit Nehru wanted to be present. He had written to the Chief Minister of Karnataka, of Mysore, that time, that I would like to come and attend this. Unfortunately, just 7 days before the 15 September 1960, on 8 September 1960, the son-in-law of Pandit Nehru and the husband of Srimati Indira Gandhi, the Prime Minister, the former Prime Minister, he died. So everybody was under the impression that since Pandit Nehru has faced with a personal tragedy that his son-in-law has died just 7 days before the event, there is a likelihood that Pandit Nehru will not come for honoring Sir M. Visvesvaraya. But Nehru was so inspired by Visvesvaraya that he decided that he will forget his personal loss. He will forget that he has lost his son-in-law. He flew down all the way from Delhi to join the entire state of Mysore, who were there in large numbers, including the Chief Minister, all the who's who had assembled in Lal Bagh for commemorating the 100 years. During that time, I will just read out a statement of Pandit Nehru, because Pandit Nehru is associated with, he's called, he was the one actually who introduced the scientific temper in the Indian Constitution. He was the man who coined the phrase temples of modern India. So this man, Pandit Nehru, our founding Prime Minister, who had so much interest in science and technology, what he said in his address in commemoration of Sir Visvesvaraya, I'm just reading out this one. You, sir, have been always young in mind, young in outlook, and looking as young people should to the future. You have not lost yourself in the past. You have always looked to the future, and you have always built for that future. And you have reminded us always of this modern world of science and industry and technology. And so many of us feel old when we look at your young self. We in India have an unfortunate reputation for talking a great deal and not living up to what we say. You, sir, have been a great exception to that rule, for you have talked little and done much. This shows this. Nehru talked about this when Visvesvaraya was 100 years and very, very active, both in terms of his brain and also in terms of thinking. After doing all the felicitation to Visvesvaraya, he announced that in the city of Bangalore, a museum should be developed in honor of Visvesvaraya. That is how the foundation stone of Visvesvaraya Museum was laid in 1962. There again, while laying the foundation stone, also there is a very interesting story. Pandit Nehru was supposed to come for the laying of the foundation stone. Just 2 years. He came to Lal Bagh to commemorate his 100 years on 15 September 1960. 26 July 1962 was the foundation laying ceremony at Visvesvaraya Museum. But then what happened is there was some kind of a political turmoil, not a turmoil, change that was taking place in Karnataka, when the Chief Minister of Karnataka, Kanti, had given way to a new Chief Minister, Nijlingappa. So Pandit Nehru actually had written to S.R. Kanti telling that I would personally come to lay the foundation stone for Visvesvaraya Museum. When the Chief Minister changed, Pandit Nehru thought that maybe the new Chief Minister, Nijlingappa, may not remember this. So he wrote another reminder letter to Nijlingappa and informed him that, look, I had written a letter to your predecessor, S.R. Kanti, that I will come for this. while congratulating you for becoming the chief minister, I would like to remind you that I will be personally present. So that is a kind of a respect that Nehru himself had for this great man, centenarian, who lived for almost 102 years. There are very few people, in the history of India or globally, that who survive up to 100 years. And there is perhaps nobody who has lived up to 100 years, living beyond the kind of works that no one can imagine. That is the reason the nation, as reverence, decided that 15th September should be considered and declared as Engineers Day. So this is the genesis of Engineers Day. And it so happened that I was posted at the Visvesvaraya Museum as the director in 2011, which happened to be the sesquicentennial year. That means 150th year of the official birth anniversary of Visvesvaraya, who I told you was officially born in 1861. So that year, what we thought is, should we not create an exhibition in memory of Visvesvaraya? That is how we started doing extensive research, started collecting whole lot of works that he had done, archives, letters that he wrote to great leaders like Pandit Nehru, Mahatma Gandhi, Tagore, and quite a lot of people. He has written letter to almost everyone. The only difference is that the most of the leaders were all involved in freedom struggle, while Visvesvaraya was majorly involved in his developmental work as engineer, as a statesman, as Diwan of the Mysore, etc. So that exhibition which we had created in Bangalore was very, very successful. Then when I came to Mumbai here in 2013, we thought that Visvesvaraya actually has spent almost 25 years in the state of Maharashtra, particularly under the Bombay government of the British India, as an engineer. The great capabilities of the engineering skill that he had, he actually developed in the state of Maharashtra, particularly in Bombay and Pune and other provinces. So we thought, why not we create that same exhibition with more detailed information which we obtained from the Maharashtra State Archives. That is how this exhibition we inaugurated on 15 September 2014 at the Nehru Science Center. The 102nd India Science Congress was held in Mumbai, at the Mumbai University. Dr. Kakodkar, who had come for inauguration of this exhibition, understood the importance and the kind of research that went into making this exhibition. He was also the committee chairman to decide the Hall of Pride. There is in every India Science Congress, there is a commemoration or a respect paid to one great scientist by creating a huge stall in memory of that scientist. So in the 102nd India Science Congress, it was decided that the Hall of Pride will be in the name of Visvesvaraya. In the meantime, I'm just showing you some of the extensive work that we had done. And, you can see the number of photographs, the letters, most of it which we collected from all across the country. Then subsequently, what happened is, since this exhibition was financially supported by the Jindals, we thought of bringing out a book. You will see there, Dr. Mashelkar was the chief guest who released our book. Unfortunately, that book is now out of print. But fortunately, Nehru Science Center is always for the public. So if you go to the website of the Nehru Science Center, under the new publication section, this book can be downloaded free of cost. So those of you who are interested in knowing more detail about Visvesvaraya, please go to the website www.nehrusciencecenter.gov.in. Under the publication section, you can download this. Like I told you, this Visvesvaraya's exhibition was selected for Hall of Pride. You can see here the then the S&T minister and also the state minister, they're enjoying the Visvesvaraya exhibition. Now, the kind of response that we got in the India Science Congress is unprecedented. We got more than a couple of lakh visitors for those 3-4 days or 5 days of the exhibition when it was held here in January 2015. Now let's start the journey of this great man from his humble days. Like most of those people who were born during the the British era, during the colonial era, he also was born to a very poor family poor. I mean, his father was some kind of a priest, and his mother was also, both of them were very poor. His father used to go from place to place because he was a priest. In those conditions, Visvesvaraya was born in that house. You can see the house behind, in a place called Muddenhalli. It is very close to the Bangalore International Airport, just about 8 to 10 kilometers from there. So he was born in this place on 18th September 1860 or 61, whichever you put it. I mean, I think as per official records, 1861, but there are a lot of evidence to say that he was actually born on 15th September 1860. Now, this is how he looked like. Visvesvaraya always wore that peta kind of a thing, the turban. He studied in a small, like I told you, in Muddenhalli. Then he subsequently came to Bangalore and studied in a place called Wesleyan Mission High School. Then did his BA in Central College, Bangalore. That time, there was only one engineering. There was one engineering college, one of the oldest engineering college, which was there in Pune. So Visvesvaraya did very well up to college level. Then he decided that I should pursue engineering as my choice. But in the meanwhile, when Visvesvaraya was studying in the Wesleyan Mission High School, there was one of his teachers. In fact, he was the principal of that school, Mr. Charles Walters. He gifted Visvesvaraya a Webster's dictionary. You can see this in the photograph, this Webster's dictionary. This Webster's dictionary was so very close to Charles Walters that he really loved that dictionary so much. But yet, he was so inspired by Visvesvaraya, he gifted that to Visvesvaraya. So, incidentally, when we had this exhibition in Bangalore, we had displayed the original dictionary which he got in the exhibition. So, Visvesvaraya came to Pune for pursuing his engineering. That time it was called as Licentiate of Civil Engineering, LCE. And he passed this engineering with distinction in November 1883. During those days, there was a scheme that whoever tops the engineering exam in Pune, that gentleman, he or she, will automatically get selected as an assistant engineer for the government of Bombay. So since Visvesvaraya topped his civil engineering, he was automatically appointed as the assistant engineer under the Bombay government of the colonial British. So his first posting, when he joined this post in March, in fact, February-March 1884, he was posted in Nashik. You can see that small little hut there, as some kind of a small house. And this is the place, office. This is the place where actually Visvesvaraya joined in 1884. He was posted there, but just in about a week or two, he was asked to shift from there to a place called Dhulia. I mean, in Maharashtra, most of you are aware. So he went there, he started working for one routine kind of a works. Then sometime in the month of June, July, he was given a major work. What was that major work? On the Panjara River, Visvesvaraya was to take the water from the Panjara River to a small village, which is almost about 40-45 kilometers away, by drawing pipes. And this pipe had to pass through another, some kind of a small stream or a lake, stream kind of a thing, which had, so this pipe had to be laid on the bed of that stream. So you all know that the streams will all have sand beneath that. So despite all his best, always whenever he tried to dig the belt of the bed of the stream, very next day, because of the rain, the sand is to come and completely cover that. So he wrote to he went to the local authorities and asked, this is happening. How do we solve this thing? Then they said, why are you wasting your time? Why don't you wait for 2 or 3 months until the rainy season is over? Once the rainy season is over, you can always complete the work. So with this thought, what M. Visvesvaraya did is he wrote to his engineer and told him that, look, can you please permit me to come back to the my headquarters, which is Nasik, so that once the rainy season is over, I will go back and start this work. No, it was a very innocent thing that he wrote, but then he got a memo. Sir M. Visvesvaraya got a memo in the month of June, July. Now, what the memo served on him said, the assistant engineer is beginning his career badly as regards energy and obedience to orders. So, some of us, we should all learn from this that it's not necessary that you will always be lucky to begin a good career. Visvesvaraya also his career did not go well, because immediately in 2-3 months of his joining, he got a memo. Then he became, because he was one man who was brilliant. So he took that memo seriously. And then during the rainy season itself, he worked very hard, very diligently. In fact, he used to cross the river on a horseback, go from every day from his the guest house to that place of work, and completed this in record time. This work was remarkable work. So when he was doing this work so diligently, during that time, there was a scheme for the engineers to get promoted very early. Normally, the engineers used to take about 3 years to get the first promotion. For passing for getting a promotion, there were 2 conditions. One condition was that you are supposed to pass a language test, which in this case was Marathi. Visvesvaraya was born in Karnataka, so his mother tongue was Kannada. He also knew Telugu. But then, because he studied in Pune Engineering College, by that time he had already learned Marathi. So quick he was to grasp different languages. So in just about 11-12 months, his engineer, who was so impressed with him, told him that, why don't you appear for the exam? He passed the Marathi test. He passed an extremely difficult practical civil engineering test. So from assistant engineer, he became a grade 2 engineer. And then in a very short time, he became a grade 1 engineer. So when he became a grade 1 engineer in 1886 or 87, his monthly salary was 500 rupees per month. The reason I'm telling you this is, you just compare the 1896 salary of some Visvesvaraya with the 1907 salary of C.V. Raman. I think all of you are knowing that C.V. Raman was first appointed as the Assistant Accountant General, and he was posted in Calcutta. Raman was getting just 250 rupees. So Visvesvaraya in 1886, he was 1885-86, he was getting 200 rupees, almost double of what Raman was getting. So such was the genius or brilliance of Visvesvaraya wherever he went. The Dhulia, the work that he has done, it survived for several decades. And the remnants of that, what I have shown in the picture, is actually the remnant of Visvesvaraya's work. That time, when again from there he came back to the Pune, where in Pune he did a lot of works on irrigation and other things. In the meanwhile, when he was in Pune, one of the engineer, superintendent engineer who liked Visvesvaraya, wrote a letter to him and told that there is a very challenging work that is to be done in Sukur. It is in Sindh area, where the Pakistan right now, that Sindh is now in Pakistan. So the Indus River flows through that region. What they wanted is, there is a big military cantonment in Sukur. So the Visvesvaraya was given a difficult task of actually creating a water supply from the river Indus to the military cantonment area. The problem with this is the Indus Valley, the Indus River, the water that flows through this is very, very muddy and very dirty. So what you needed to do for transporting this water from the river to the place where the cantonment was there, it would have taken a lot of money, because one has to, first and foremost, you have a water filtering plant. Then from the water filtering plant, you take that the pipe and supply it to the city. This would have costed, the cost of this would have gone much beyond the estimate. So Visvesvaraya came out with a ingenious method. What he devised is called as a collector's well. I am giving you a period of February 1894, when he thought about this innovative method of filtering and natural filtering by digging a well on the river bed itself. That sand itself will work as a filtering process, and that water which he gathered through the collector's well, he used it to supply to the city, this in Sindh. In fact, the Supur posting actually provided him an additional 250 rupees plus a fully furnished house. So he could complete this mammoth work in just about 11 months. So, I mean, the Sandhurst, you must be knowing there is a station here. Lord Sandhurst personally came to inaugurate this work in Sindh. And the kind of an appreciation that Lord Sandhurst has written, it's something which people should read to understand what kind of an engineer Visvesvaraya was. I told you, he, during the process of his working with the Maharashtra government in Bombay, he majorly worked in Pune, and in Pune he did some remarkable work. One of the most remarkable work is on Lake Fife. Those of you who traveled to Pune, you must have seen Khadakwasla there, and also the Lake Fife. There, he, for the first time ever, he introduced what is known as automatic gates. Until then, what was happening was, during the rainy season, a lot of water is to get wasted. So, in order to increase the reservoir's height, he came out with this innovative method of creating what he called as sluice gates, which became automatic sluice gates. When beyond a certain level, when water crosses that level, the gates is to automatically open. By doing this, he increased the storage capacity of the dam or the lake by almost about 20 to 25%. This was remarkable. I am actually showing you, putting on this the newspaper of Times of India at that time, 1893 or 94, where His Excellency and his wife, they came here, they appreciated this automatic sluice gate so very much. In fact, the wife of Lord Lemming, she was so enamored by Visvesvaraya that actually she started going with him in port. That's completely another story. So such was his impression on his engineering skill. But then, because of this innovative way, he actually was awarded the patent for the automatic sluice gate. But Visvesvaraya was man of highest ideals. He never wanted to utilize the patent which he had got for his innovation or invention, for his own personal benefit. So although he got a patent, but he never ever claimed any royalty for his patent. So this automatic sluice gates that he used in Pune have been used all over the country, and most famously in Krishnaraja Sagar. When he was in Pune, because of shortage of time, I'm not going to go into all these details. He came out with another genius method, what he called as a block system of irrigation. Until then, what was happening in Pune is, the water was being given to the farmers for cultivation. Some of the farmers were wasting the waters, while some farmers, they were deprived of the water. So it was becoming a big, major embarrassment, and there used to be always constant complaint to Bombay that we are not getting water, and there was huge amount of complaint. So the engineer posted there was Visvesvaraya. The Britishers wrote to Visvesvaraya and told, "Can you come out with a solution for this?" But then, you have limited water. With that limited water, how do I satisfy all these people? So he came out with a system known as block system of irrigation. That means he divided the farms into blocks. In one area, you will grow which is water intensive. For example, sugarcane. In other areas, you will grow something which is not water intensive. So he started rotating the water from one place to other place, so that all the farmers, they were fully satisfied with this system. But then initially they were not aware how does this system work. So they went on a strike. What he did, he was a genius engineer. He called all of them for a meeting. In fact, this meeting also happened in Ferguson College, which is still there. He called all of them and he explained to them personally that how the system works and how this block system of irrigation is going to be beneficial to all of you. This block system of irrigation has been highly appreciated and used not just in India. Wherever the Britishers ruled, they took this block system of irrigation and started using it. He served in the Bombay province from 1884 to to 1907. And from the post of assistant engineer that he had joined, he went on to rise to the level of superintendent engineer. But during those days, the highest position of the civil engineer was the chief engineer. But that chief engineer post is mostly, or why, it was reserved only for the Britishers. No Indian could ever rise to the level of chief engineer. So there was no question of Visvesvaraya staying back, because he was not to become the chief engineer. Before he went from here in 1907, you can see the number of works that he has done in Karachi, Hyderabad in Pakistan, Ahmedabad, Kolhapur, Dharwad, Belgaum, Bijapur, Sangli, Amravati. Almost there is no place in the state of Maharashtra and neighboring Bombay province in which the works of Visvesvaraya have not been done. Now, he was so, just before his leaving from Bombay, his works in Bombay province were praised majorly in a Times of India report, which has appeared on 30th January 1908. And the Britisher, the topmost chief engineer, called him the most talented engineer that he has ever seen in his life. Such was the contribution of Visvesvaraya for Maharashtra. Just before leaving from here, from Maharashtra, after he completed his tenure in 1907, he went on a foreign trip. Earlier also, he had actually in 1894 also he had gone. Whenever he went abroad, he learned a lot from European countries which he visited. So this is the passport where I told you, in this passport it is mentioned that Visvesvaraya's date of birth is 15 September 1861. He visited a lot of countries, primarily Europe, Japan, Russia, America, England, France, and other things. But during his visit in 1907, he was actually in 1908. Actually, he started touring in this end of the 1907. By 1908, when he was in Paris, he got a SOS message which was served to him. What that SOS message was, he got a message that the Salar Jung in Hyderabad has requested the services of Sir M. Visvesvaraya for solving a problem in Hyderabad. In 1908, during the rainy season, there was a huge, heavy flood that happened. It killed thousands and thousands of people. There are two rivers in Hyderabad, a river known as Isi and Musi, its tributary. It flooded so much that it killed almost about 5,000 to 6,000 people and completely destroyed the city of Hyderabad. So you can actually see the photographs of the destruction of the Hyderabad flood area. So Salar Jung wrote a letter. I mean, I told you that Visvesvaraya came from his trip, cut short his trip to Europe and came to Hyderabad at the request of Salar Jung. By then, Visvesvaraya had already received a request letter from state of Mysore. They wanted him to be the chief engineer. But then he thought, since there are a lot of deaths that have happened in Hyderabad, let me first try and study that and try and come out with some kind of a design. So Visvesvaraya was very specialized in the sense that wherever he went, there is something known as a plan your work and work your plan. He used to do remarkable planning. He was a man who was impeccable in terms of analyzing the statistics, analyzing the data. So he came to Hyderabad. He was staying in a guest house. He asked for some very young engineers to be with him. So there were 3 or 4 people who were with him. Every day he used to ask these people to survey the entire area which has flooded Hyderabad city with a lot of data. So it took almost 1.5 to 2 months for him to analyze the data as to why the flooding has happened. So after studying all these things, it took almost 5 to 6 months for him. He suggested that if you have to stop this, there is only one way. You have to build reservoirs. So that is where, you have Himayat Sagar, which is there in Hyderabad. That building up that reservoir was based on this suggestion and recommendation of Visvesvaraya. If you really see the kind of a damage that 1908 flood had done, 80,000 people, I'm talking about 1908, almost 113 years ago, 80,000 people had become homeless and almost 3 crore rupees worth property had been lost and some 15,000 people had died. So once this reservoir were created, from 1908 until very recently, I think it was only in 2019 or so that the flood has come. There was never ever a flood that happened, primarily because of the works that Visvesvaraya did. In addition to that, he was also requested to provide the drainage system for the city. Even today, what you see in Hyderabad, the drainage system is the one which has been created or designed by Visvesvaraya. It is continuing to survive even today. After that, Visvesvaraya came back to his motherland in Mysore, and he worked as the chief engineer in Mysore. When he worked as a chief engineer, again, there too, there was a problem of for the farmers that they were not able to get water for cultivation. So he suggested a very massive and a highly ambitious project to build a reservoir on river Kaveri at a place called as Kannambadi. The cost of the project was so huge that nobody ever imagined that somebody could invest that money. There were a lot of critics who told that why the hell this engineer is trying to waste that much money. But fortunately, the Mysore Maharaj, where under whom Visvesvaraya was working, was a chief engineer, had full trust in him. He believed him and started constructing the Krishnarajasagara Dam, which is one of the most remarkable dams. During those days when he constructed it, it was the largest dam in the entire Asia. So during the process of our research, we could gather some of the outstanding archival photographs of the construction of this, the reservoir or the Krishnarajasagara Dam. These photographs date back to 1914, 1915, 1917. So these are some of the photographs that we used for the exhibition. So Visvesvaraya worked as a chief engineer for the state of Karnataka and did remarkable works there. His works have benefited the Mysore province, particularly the district of Mandya, which is called as the sugar bowl of southern India. That is primarily because of this Krishnarajasagara. You can see the kind of works that was going on, such massive works in the year 1914 to 15. Impressed with his remarkable work, the Mysore Maharaja appointed him as the prime minister. That time, the prime minister of the princely state was called as Diwan. So Visvesvaraya was appointed as the Diwan of Mysore in the year 1912. So he worked as the Diwan of Mysore for 6 long years. And during his, when he was a Diwan, the kind of a work that he did is completely, is unprecedented and remarkable. In a place called Bhadravati, he developed an iron and steel plant. Even today, that iron and steel plant is there. This was one of the first iron and steel plant in the country, only after the Tata Iron and Steel at Jamshedpur. I think it's a different story that in Jamshedpur, the man who was primarily responsible for this one, there was one engineer, one chemist by name Perrin, who was in Philadelphia. He was an expert in this. So he came all the way to India to develop Tata Steel. Perrin was in constant touch with Visvesvaraya, and Perrin had a great respect for Visvesvaraya. In fact, Visvesvaraya is also on the board of the Tata Iron and Steel Company, which is now in Jamshedpur. So the Bhadravati Steel works worked so very efficiently. It supplied a lot of this, the rail during the Second World War, and plus a lot of the rail work was done using the iron and steel supplied by Bhadravati. And in fact, a lot of it was also exported to London that time. He also created a sugar factory, because by that time, once the Vrindavan garden came up, there was a reservoir. That reservoir made the cultivation of sugar. That in turn needed a sugar factory. So he created a sugar factory in Mandya and several other places. You can see those the advertisements also. So this also led to the huge benefits for the farmers of the company. He created a government soap factory, Mysore sandal. Some of you may be using the Mysore sandal soap, Mysore sandal oil. All these things were created when Visvesvaraya was the Diwan. So since time is very short, I'm not going to go into the details. Even for creating the Mysore government soap factory, what he did is he tied up with the Tata Institute of Science. that now it is called the Indian Institute of Science. So the chemical engineering department of the Indian Institute of Science was used for coming out with the formula for producing the Mysore sandal oil and also the Mysore sandal soap. So, he was also responsible in creating the railway network in the state of Mysore. He also created a harbor in Mangalore area. So he did remarkable works in a short span of 6 years. He was also responsible for building the first bank. In fact, the Mysore Bank, what is the State Bank of Mysore, which later on went on to become State Bank of India, the best bank, the government bank, was the brainchild of Visvesvaraya. He was extremely self-reliant, he had a self-belief that only a country which invests in education, which invests in industry, only they can grow. Otherwise, you will never ever progress, and your people will never be happy. So, because of this, he invested heavily in education. He made compulsory education for girls. The number of schools that were built during his time, 6 years tenure, almost were double that than what he had inherited. He also was responsible for opening up the Mysore University. You must remember that until opening of this Mysore University, all the universities which were in India were all controlled, built, developed by the Britishers. But this was the first one which was actually developed by the provincial Raja, Mysore Maharaj. So he also built the public library. He started a ladies' college. There's a college of engineering. He started one college of engineering in Bangalore, which is now recognized as University Visvesvaraya College of Engineering. The best of engineers have passed out from this college, which was again the brainchild of Visvesvaraya. He also started what is known as a Kannada Sahitya Parishad. He was more interested in art, literature, particularly in literature. He wanted to create a public space where people should come and have an intellectual discussion. So this is the place where he thought that the more you become educated, the better it is for the welfare of the people. By that time, what happened is, there was the iron and steel factory that he had created went into losses. So the Mysore Maharaja invited him once again and asked him to take over the charge of the Bhadravati steel, iron and steel factory. He was not just a good engineer, he was also a great manager. He turned around the Bhadravati iron and steel and converted a loss-making factory into a profit-making factory. So the company started earning a lot of money, courtesy Visvesvaraya. But then he did this, he took up the job without any remuneration. So the Mysore Maharaja told that, I will give you money for the turning over this the loss-making iron and steel factory. So whatever money that he got, he invested back into the society to create a Jaichama Rajendra Polytechnic College. We now are talking about Skill India. Visvesvaraya talked about Skill India, developed the Polytechnic College to have a lot of skill-based jobs, skill-based vocational programs. And that money, entire money, was from his own personal earnings. So I will just rush through how much time do we have, Umesh? Rajesh, how much time do you have?
Sir, I think we have 10 minutes more.
Yeah, 10 minutes. So I'll just complete that because this is I'm talking about this in the prior to independence. This is the kind of a vocational training program that he created in Bangalore. I'll rush through now. All of you must be knowing that Lutyens Delhi, the Rashtrapati Bhavan, North Block, South Block, the capital of the British Empire shifted from Calcutta to Delhi in 1911. So during that time, the parliament, all these beautiful buildings were built. Visvesvaraya served on this committee. The architect's name was Edwin Lutyens. So Visvesvaraya was appointed on the committee to look after, to see that these the Lutyens buildings come up properly. He also worked on a project known as internationally in a place called Aden, which is right now in Syria. This was another remarkable work where with his innovation, he was able to take water from the desert area into the desert. You are all aware of the Hirakut Dam. This is one of the biggest dams, which that is the reason. In fact, looking at this massive size of the dam, Visvesvaraya coined the term temples of modern India. For doing this dam, the state of Orissa also had witnessed floods and a lot of people had died. Mahatma Gandhi and Visvesvaraya never enjoyed, in sense, the both of them did not share the same ideas. Mahatma Gandhi said, industrialize and perish. If you industrialize, you will die. Visvesvaraya gave a counter slogan and told, industrialize or perish. If you don't industrialize, you will die. In spite of such a difference, Mahatma Gandhi wrote a personal appeal letter to Visvesvaraya and told him, please go to Orissa and inspect this flood-affected areas and suggest means of how do you overcome this. So Visvesvaraya went there in his inimitable style, studied the entire thing, did the data analytics, collected the data, and suggested a design for building a Hirakut Dam, which was ultimately built in 1940. The foundation stone was laid in 1948 and by Pandit Nehru, and it was inaugurated in 1957. It is a remarkable dam, and this owes its genesis to Visvesvaraya. Now, like I told you, whenever he went abroad, he always learned from there. And he came back and wanted to start a automobile industry in Bangalore. Unfortunately, that did not happen. The loss of Bangalore became a profit of the Maharashtra. The Walchand Hirachand started the Hindustan Motors in Pune. That is how Pimpri Chinchwad, that area, if you really see, the industrialization took place because the first automobile factory came up there. In the meanwhile, he also wanted to start manufacturing aircrafts. HAL, which is there in Bangalore, is courtesy Visvesvaraya site. So I will rush through this one now. This is Walchand Hirachand's plant in Pune, because of which the whole of Pune has now become industrialized. He was also very good in organizing the industrialists under one umbrella. So he started something known as the All India Manufacturers Organization, AIMO. If you really look at the World Trade Center, which is there which has been created by reclaiming the land from the sea, was primarily because of Visvesvaraya's ideas. It was the All India Manufacturers Organization which recommended the construction of the World Trade Center. Even All India Manufacturers Organization building, you see, every annual lecture was mostly attended by the prime ministers. In fact, this AIMO was commissioned. It was a brainchild of Visvesvaraya. He was the president of that. It started in 1948. There is a very interesting story. I will tell this. I will skip the other things. Visvesvaraya came, the Pandit Nehru came for addressing this in 1948. But that time, Pandit Nehru was the prime minister. But Visvesvaraya did not like the industrial and economic policies that Visvesvaraya was following. So when Pandit Nehru was addressing the industrialists from the All India Manufacturers Organization forum in Delhi, Visvesvaraya stopped him and started criticizing the policies of the Nehru. Nehru he became red hot. People say that his face had become red. But Visvesvaraya, he was never afraid to call a spade a spade. In between, Pandit Nehru tried to ask him to stop. Visvesvaraya addressed him as, instead of telling Nehru, he called him Motilal Nehru. Pandit Nehru tried to correct him and told, I think because of your age, you are calling me by my father's name or not my name. Visvesvaraya was very witty. You know what he told him? He told him, Jawahar, I have worked with your father. I know your father much better than what I know you. So that is the reason you need not teach me what the policies are. That is the reason I am trying to remind you that your father knows me much more than what you know. So such was his plain speaking, even to the prime minister. He also was, I told you, he created the Deccan Club in Pune, the Century Club in Bangalore. He ensured that even the ladies also come and organize themselves here. He was very, very closely associated with the Indian Institute of Science for almost about 30, 40 years. This is the resolution which was passed when he gave up the office of that. The Tata Institute, you can see Homi Bhabha, J.R.D. Tata there, paid huge accolades to Sir M. Visvesvaraya. Visvesvaraya, the 5-year plan that Pandit Nehru actually adopted it is courtesy Visvesvaraya. He wrote two books, Reconstructing India in 1920 and Planned Economy for India in 1936. It is these two books which were primarily responsible or which influenced Pandit Nehru to introduce what is known as the 5-year plan India or a planned economy. In fact, the Congress government had a committee, economic committee, when Subhash Chandra Bose was the president of the Congress. He actually wanted to make Visvesvaraya the chairman of this committee, but then another scientist, Meghnad Shah, convinced Subhash Chandra Bose to make Pandit Nehru as the chairman of the Economic Committee of the Indian National Congress. He received many awards. One of that is the Knight Commander of the Order of the Indian Empire from the British Empire. He also received a Kaisar-e-Hind medal again from the British Empire. He was honored with doctorate from several universities, all across India. And of course, he also received the Bharat Ratna in the year 1955. He shared the Bharat Ratna with Pandit Nehru and Bhagwan Das. He died on April 14, 1962. Pandit Nehru, I told you, came here to lay the foundation stone of the Visvesvaraya Museum on July 14, 1962. And Visvesvaraya Museum was opened in 1965 in memory of him. So this is the first day cover on the first day cover which the Postal Department brought out clearly mentions that he was born on 15/9/1960. You can see here Pandit Nehru went to Lal Bagh to show the first day cover to Visvesvaraya. At the age of 100 years, you can see how active Visvesvaraya is. These are some of the things which, I'll just show you this thing. He died, I told you, on 14th April 1962, after almost 102 years. The nation paid huge respect to him. Although Visvesvaraya wanted that his final journey should be very somber, but the whole of city of Bangalore came to pay his respect to him. Because of shortage of time, I was not able to cover all these things in detail, but I'm sure it must have given you a bird's eye view of the contributions of Pandit Sir M. Visvesvaraya. Thank you so very much. If you have any questions, I can take some of these questions.
Thank you, sir. It was really amazing journey. In fact, after going through this lecture, and in fact, I had an earlier opportunity also to listen many things from you. But it's really the title given to him is the legendary nation builder. In fact, after listening this completely, there's no wonder if it is said that he was much ahead of his time. Whatever he has done, in fact, still in 21st century, our planners, they are looking for it, many of the things. And he was always ahead of his time, no doubt about it. The way you have connected the story with NCSM, and then there are some motivational stories like from Lal Bagh, and then statesmanship from both of them, including Pandit Nehru, despite losing his son-in-law, but coming for that. The entire genesis was really wonderful. Rajesh, we have some question in chat box, or if somebody wants to ask those who are inside the Zoom meeting, you can ask them. Rajesh?
Okay, that's good enough, fair enough. We're just about 1 hour now.
Okay.
I think we had 1 hour time.
Mm-hmm. In fact, frankly speaking, the way you have explained everything, I don't think, because it is more of what he has done, and those stories, they were much more interesting, whether it is issuing a memo, and in fact, before you told, when I was going through the slide, that 500 salary, I was really thinking that way. But at that time, 500 rupees salary, that was really amazing, and that he got in 2 years that promotion. But I read about whether it is Hyderabad flood, that automatic gates, patents, I think really he was genius, no doubt about that. In fact, whatever awards he has got, I think though that is the honor to the awards, not that we have honored him, all those honors, including Bharat Ratna, because if these people cannot, when we are honoring such people, they are really amazing. You mentioned about MO, AIMO, that all India. Now
Very
we
good,
talk
nice.
about that even from internationally, they are organizing that people should come and invest. So I think that was much ahead of his time. But many of the things I came to know after going through completely this lecture, even the way this connecting industries and academic, in one of the slide you mentioned that he signed maybe a kind of MOU or association with IISC, that in fact that's truly relevant even today, that how these two can come together.
You're absolutely right, because when CSIR was formed, so what they say is there is a general feeling that scientists work in ivory towers, whatever they do, it doesn't come down to the people. But then what is called as from lab to land, from lab to factory is something which he practiced 100 years back.
Yeah. In fact, when he made that KRS, it's one of the most beautiful thing. The Mysore Garden is one of the most, I think, tourist attraction so far as when people are going there. In fact, I had opportunity to go there through that musical fountain, and KRS. You can particularly those who are staying inside there during night, you can listen to that sound which is falling from those water which is falling from those gates. Wow, even sir, he was connected with this Bhakra Dam also, or somewhere, because
yes, Bhakra Dam, actually that's Hirakut Dam directly. See, every single work, major work that happened, Visvesvaraya had to be there. For example, building that in Patna, the bridge that is there, it's a massive Ganga. I mean, it's at its the widest. So you had to, when building that railway bridge, Visvesvaraya was invited. And then at the age of about 90, he went so fast. People, the engineers, they were afraid to, they were not able to match the pace with which he was going. Such was his, he was a remarkable man and very, very punctual, impeccable integrity. I did not talk about that. He used to have two ink bottles, one ink bottle for official use, one ink bottle for his personal use.
Oh my God. That's really amazing. In fact, I was reading, he lost his father at a very early stage. And despite having that, all those odds, he has gone, means from that humble background to the Mysore of Diwan. And that perhaps many of us, or maybe our policymakers, they should read that thoroughly.
There is one more thing very interesting. Although
yes.
He resigned, he did not Diwanship. He resigned from there because of difference of opinion. That time you must be knowing the Dravidian movement, DMK parties, all the Dravidian parties in that Dravidian movement was happening in Madras before the independence, and that basically was for reservation. This fellow was, I told you, whatever, when he believes in certain things, he will not compromise at all. He was one man who said that no reservation, you should empower them with education, give them scholarship, but no reservation. But then, the movement became so very powerful in Chennai, that in Madras, that it affected Mysore. Everybody was against Visvesvaraya. Then Diwan told him, why don't you please agree, let us introduce this. He said, no, he simply resigned. He is a very principled man.
He's man of guts, substance, he's man of guts, means so much of things. Because the person who can say directly to the Prime Minister in a national level function that I know your father much more than what don't teach me. So there is something inside which can be exemplary for all of us. And in fact, there is so much of learning from his life. What you have told, maybe if get an opportunity reading throughout that catalog, perhaps there will be many more things. I think it was a really wonderful journey. I don't think there will be any more questions, because it was so simple and straightforward. More of the stories which were more motivational and to learn from that. So really thankful to you. In fact, when you told me either the Engineers Day will celebrate, and nobody better than you, because we have heard so much from you already while doing that catalog. So really very, very thankful to you. And maybe with some other, you are writing so much in your blogs of different things. Maybe we'll come up again with some other occasion, or maybe on another scientist to know more on that.
Thank you
Okay,
so
sir.
much. Thank you so much.
Thank
My
you very
pleasure.
much, sir, for being
And
with
please,
us.
those of you who are
Yes.
interested in Visvesvaraya, please go to www.Nehru Science Center website.
Yeah. So on our website, you can download also. It is free of cost available. There is nothing, and go through that. And if you have any question, in fact, you can send the email to us. We'll forward those to Khened sir, and then you can get maybe a discussion or a reply to your emails on that. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, and thank you all our audience, those who are on YouTube,
Thank you so much.
for listening. So it was a great pleasure and treat to listen all those stories from them.
Thank you so